Hello, this is Josiah Winslow recording for his Advanced Object-Oriented Programming course at MATC for instructor Janice Christie. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this 5 minutes, but I will certainly try. So, I did not make too many changes to this from my midterm assignment, because this is just like an augmented version of the midterm. However, I did make a few important changes. One, I added a few properties to item. A string ID, which is unique across items, an item discount and category discount to apply to the price, and I made calc price a virtual function of the item, which I thought it should have been in the first place. And I made calc unit price its own function, and this helps me output the price for the menus of the food items, and also it turned out to simplify the calc price functions for the measured product and fresh produce a bit. As well, for the measured product and fresh produce, I added functions where instead of setting the quantity or pounds, you can add to it, and this simplified some of the stuff also. And also I have copy constructors, where you can give a pointer to that specific item type, or just a pointer to an item itself. And then what that does is it passes all of the properties of one of the items to a new item, and then constructs it and returns the new item. And in the case of passing an item pointer to a measured product or fresh produce constructor, it also checks if it's the right type. And if it is, great. If it isn't, throw an exception. As well, I also made a new data structure to hold all of the items in my cart. I called it cart. How original. And this was, as I explained here, because I wanted to have constant time insertion and lookup, but also to be able to remember the insertion order. And that, by the way, will make this very much like the dict type of Python, which is a similar sort of hash map, which remembers, items associated with certain keys and is able to look them up and insert them in constant time, but also remembers the insertion order. So, to solve that problem, I have an unordered map, which is C++'s hash map, and I have it mapping between string product IDs and item pointers. And I also have a vector of strings, which are the product IDs, called item order, which remembers the order in which things were inserted into the hash map itself. And all of these functions were added out of necessity, because I had to use them at some point in either the program itself or another one of these functions. There we go. And this function right here, the total, I have to calculate this both when printing the receipt and when calculating the recommended tips. That's what I decided to do at the screen where I made the user calculate their own tip. It takes the total and gives like a certain number of percentages. And I'm not going to go into this at very much detail, but I'm just going to give like a high-level overview of the logic of all of these. These are basically, I added a little bit of logic from my midterm assignment to accommodate all of my changes and all of the requirements, but otherwise this is very similar to my midterm. So here I have a struct, which is like a class, except its members are public by default instead of private. And I did this because I didn't feel like it needed its own big sort of class files because it's so simple. So each category of items has a name of an item, or a vector of item pointers, for the products, and a discount, which by default is 0. So I create my cart, and I create a vector of categories, which represents the entire inventory for the entire grocery store. And then I read a text file, items.txt, which this is how I decided to implement the changing of the grocery items whenever they needed to be changed. You can just like change the name right here. This right here will represent a category, and each of the lines after it that start with this little like code are the individual items in that category. And then each category item list will be terminated by a blank line, and then there will be a new category, and so on and so forth. And there's this big sort of loop right here that reads through both of those, each category and each product, and creates each of these new items to push onto the list of products, which the category is then pushed onto the inventory. And what else did I want to mention? Oh yeah, this quoted function right here saved my life, because it allows you to read from a string, or not a string, from a stream, a string that is quoted. So instead of just reading like one word at a time, or like reading until the next white space, it starts reading a start quote and keeps going until it sees an end quote that isn't escaped by an escape character. So yeah, saved my life. So here we have the pickup and delivery menu. It is very, very similar to the midterms menu, except I don't have it setting a tip for delivery. You have to calculate that yourself. I have the main menu right here, and I have some variable number of categories, which I keep track of with this index right here, so that I can output their numbers. And then I have two extra options. One, remove items from cart. This wasn't a part of the requirements, but I added it anyways. And checkout. Now, if your choice of which choice you inputted is within range, then I do control food menu for that choice. And control food menu, by the way, I did not add too much from my implementation of this from the midterms. Otherwise, if your choice was to remove items from the cart, I go to a new menu I made to remove the item. And otherwise, if your choice was to check out, then if your cart is empty, it tells you your cart is empty, please fill it. Otherwise, it leaves the main menu so we can check out. And then I have a very simple screen to enter your tip, and it lists through a list of tip percentages, 10%, 15%, 18%, 20%, to apply to the price to say that, hey, if you do that percent of a tip, then it'll be this amount of money. And then I set your tip to whatever you entered. And then I print the receipt. And now, just a very high-level overview of control food menu and remove item menu and print receipt. So, not much changed on the control food menu from last time. The only difference is I now actually have a category to pass through instead of just a vector of item pointers. So I can now put the name, the discount if there is any, and also here right now is where I use the calc unit price function to output the price of one of these after the discounts are applied. And if the price was discounted, then I say it was this amount of money before the discounts, and it's this amount of percent off if there is an individual item discount. Then I have the final option after each of the items are listed to return to the main menu. I ask for the choice. If you're returning to the main menu, then you return. Otherwise, you add that quantity of the item to the cart with the cart.add function. And this shouldn't happen. Now the remove item menu, it's very similar to that last function, except instead of listing through all the products in a category, it lists through all the products in the cart. And I have it outputting the list in a different format. I have it outputting the name and then the quantity or weight. If either there is a weight, it just prints that and then pounds. Otherwise, if there's a quantity, it'll only print the quantity if there's more than one of it. Otherwise, you can infer that there's only one of something if there is no times this amount next to it. Then final option, return to main menu. You ask for choice. If returning to main menu, return. Otherwise, remove this item from the cart with cart.remove. And by the way, I also have it so that if you remove more of a specific item from the cart than exists in the cart, it just erases that item entirely. It doesn't error out. And again, this shouldn't happen. Finally, print receipt. There is, again, not much changed from when I implemented this in the midterm, except I also keep track of the total of each item before the discounts, which I add to right here and right here whenever I come across an item. And I keep track of those so that I can calculate how much you have saved from discounts and output it, because I thought that would be a very cool metric to see. Alright, enough chit chat. Now let's get to testing this. So, delivery. We're going to do delivery this time. So first, let's go into the meat and seafood. I think I'll get 5 pounds of ground beef and 1.5 pounds of whole chicken and a pound of salmon. And so far, we can check what we have in the cart by going remove items from cart and choosing not to remove anything. So just as an example, you can see right here, 5 pounds of ground beef, 1.5 pounds of whole chicken, 1 pound of salmon. And let's say I want to remove one of those pounds of ground beef. I do that like this, and then I can return to the main menu to shop some more. It turns out there is a 10% off sale on grapes. Let's get 10 pounds. And my usual 5.3 pounds of bananas. And finally, let's go into the frozen food aisle. Apparently there's a 20% off sale on frozen foods. So you know what that means? 7 pizzas. And maybe let's have 2 popsicles. Alright, so now let's check out. So, apparently the subtotal of all of the items we have in our cart this time is $102.62. And these are different calculations for each percentage of tip right here. I think they're going to do a good job, so 2052, that's 20% what I've recommended. And actually, you know what? I'll go a little bit more than that, 21. And would you look at that? Here is the receipt. It shows the price of all of your items together, after discounts are applied, of course. How many you got, their list price, all their names. And here's the tip. I chose a $21 tip, and there is a flat $20 delivery fee. The total is $143.62 after tip and delivery. But apparently, with the discounts on each of the items, the frozens and the grapes, I saved $11.17, which is 10% of my order before tip and delivery. So that's great. That's 10% of the money that I can spend again on more things. And just to show what happens if you apply a category discount to something that has an individual item discount, let's add a 15% discount to fresh produce. So this time we're going to do a pickup in store. And all we're doing is getting some produce items. So there's a 15% off sale on all produce. The Gala apples are $3.39 a pound instead of $3.99. The bananas are 41 cents a pound instead of 48 cents. And the grapes, they also have a 10% off discount on grapes. So that is applied as well as the 15%. So now the price of grapes is $2.29 a pound. Now is a really good time to buy grapes. Let's buy 12.5 pounds. And let's also buy 5 pounds of bananas. So let's check out. This time I'm feeling a little bit stingy on the tip, so let's say... Actually, you know what? Let's enter a negative tip and see what happens. So, they have to give me $5. Whoops! Input must be greater than or equal to 0. Let's just do 0. Alright, so tip, $0. Delivery fee, because we're doing a pickup, it's 0. And it's this many for the grapes and the bananas. And look at that, we saved 23% on our order today because of the discounts. That's always fun. Alright, so that is how all of that stuff works, and thank you, Miss Christie, for having me in your class, and it's been really, really fun to learn C++ in a more formal setting than I've ever used it in before. Take care.